Very good morning, church. I really want to thank God for this opportunity, as well as our pastor and the entire church for giving me this opportunity to share what God has been doing in my life throughout my life so far. So, for those who don't know, my name is Ephraim and I'm a MDiv student doing my final year in SciEx, and I basically come from a pastor's family. So, my entire life I've been born and brought up in the church itself, and I know both the good things and I experience even the hardship of ministries. And I was more occupied and I was more disturbed by the hardships while growing up. So when I was very young, like every child, probably they would expect their parents to take some time out for them, spend some time together. But those were the things that were missing. And while growing up, you are expected to live a certain sort of life. And a lot of times you fail. And that failure leads to a big tag or a big label on your life that you're not being able to do this right, you're not able to do this right. And so those were the insecurities that I was growing up with. But then growing up, when I moved out for my school and all, I was outside, my friends, that was a very different version of me again, a more bold, a more daring person, and got exposed to a lot of things. And I thought that that was the life that I was actually enjoying. Got into a lot of habits and all, got into things called street fights, street bike racings, where I also lost one of my very close friend, very dear friend, in the verge of bike racings and all. And then that was the time when I actually decided to move out of my church. So the purpose of my life, the vision of my life, was only one thing, that I wanted to move out from my hometown, somewhere far away where people will not know me and I can live my life as how I want to live. So after class 12, I decided that I wanted to move out, so I started applying. And then I landed up in Chennai, in Madras Christian College, if any one of you know. Then I studied there for my bachelor's. Initially, it was fun, actually, to be very honest. I enjoyed my independence. I was dependent on my own self. I did whatever I wanted to. But at the same time, I was exposed to a lot of things that I should not have been, actually. And then I was also the door for me opened, where clubs and pubs, all those kind of places started inviting me to perform over there. And that was my life, I went there to study, but then other than study, I was engaged with all these kind of things. But then at a stage I think it was my third semester, I flunked my entire third sem. And that was not because I was bad at my studies, but because I did not have enough attendance. So entire night I would be outside performing, and then the entire day when I'm supposed to be in the class, I used to be sleeping in my own room. And that is how I flunked. And that was, I think, one instance where actually I thought to myself that, is this actually the life that I wanted to live? Moving forward, I was still living the same life, and then after Chennai finished, then I moved to Delhi for work, and I was just trying to escape from going back home. So home was the only place that I did not want to be. Other than home, I could be anywhere, any part of the world, any part of India. I would not mind that. So I was continuously moving. But then this tragedy, I'm sure all of us we went through, was COVID hit. And then I had to get back home. I was laid off and I went back home. And I think that was the time where I felt very purposeless. I was getting depressed day by day. I had degree, no job, and I did not want to apply for a job inside our own town, but I was just thinking that I was getting stuck up each day and have nothing to do. My relationship with my parents, with my family, was getting bitter and bitter. Alongside, my relationship with my church members were also getting very bitter, and then that was the only place where I did not want to be at all. So along that time, there was this youth conference that actually happened, which was organized by our own church. And then, I was just there. I went there to attend that youth service. And there was this encounter night, we call it, where we are worshiping. And then I could see the entire floor, the entire youths, they were on their knees. They were praying. People, and the youths, they were crying. They were having their own personal God. But then I went back at the last. And then I was just thinking to myself, I know that God was present in that place. I know that God was talking to so many people, so many youths. They were experiencing the love of God. They were encountering Jesus over there. But I felt to myself, am I so far from God? that I am not being able to experience anything, no tears, no feeling, no zeals in my body, nothing. So I was just wondering and I was just thinking to myself, am I so distant? Have I become so distant? Because I know that I was born and brought up in the same family, in pastor's family, and I know what it actually feels. I've heard my parents share their faithfulness and how God has been faithful to them and all those things. But then I was wondering, have I become so distant from God that I am not being able to experience anything? And I'm sure the entire church, my parents, all of them, they were continuously praying for me too. But at that point of time, when I was just having these questions, having this doubt in my mind, one of the pastor, he just came towards me. And the only thing that he did was he gave me a tight hug. And that particular hug actually broke me down completely. I don't know what was that feeling. I don't know what I was going through, but it was just that particular hug that actually broke me down. And then it was not the long prayers, it was not prayer of deliverance, not prayer of healing, but it was just that thing. And then one thing he told me was that, Ephraim, no matter where you are in your life, God just wants you. Just surrender. And that was the moment for the first time I actually felt the love of God. And then I surrendered my life. And then I wanted to move out from all the things that I was actually dealing with. The camp got over, and then, yes, for me, I was like, I really wanted to get my life to a better route. So I was walking towards that path. I was back home. I was trying my best to, cope up with everything that is happening, trying to be nice, reading my word and all. And then at that point of time, early morning, I get a call from one of my friend. I couldn't receive it, but my mom received it, and she told me that one of my closest friend, my childhood friend, he met with an accident while they were racing back from the hills. That was the moment that I was shaken completely because I've already lost one of my friend, and that was a very terrible experience, something that I do not want to experience again. So early morning, I went to the hospital. He was taken to the hospital, and then according to the sources over there were actually around 10 to 15 of these guys. They were traveling down. But when this guy met with the accident, and the guys who helped them were just 3 or 4. So the majority of the guys, they just backed out during that particular time, and they left. Along with all this thing that was happening, breaking down, I was also thinking into my head, that why are people so much into this kind of things? The same rage or the same anger issue that was building up within me, that I really want to meet these people, I really want to talk to them, I really want to do certain things, and all those things were running into my head. And then I was also thinking, while I'm trying to do this, why is this thing again happening back? Why is the same cycle? I'm going through the same cycle once again. And not just the cycle, but also the same kind of incident that is actually happening. But then the only thing that I could actually do was I got into my knees and I just had one prayer that, God, if you help this guy survive, then I'll give my life to surrender. I don't know if it was it was not a prayer that most of the saints of God or most of the ministers of God make when they surrender their life, but that was my thing. It was more like a bargain with God. If you say, if He is alive, if He can take His breath, and if He lives His life, then I'll surrender my life to whatever you ask me to do. And although things were very tough, he went through 3 or 4 surgeries and all, but by the grace of God, he was healed completely. Doctor said it would take at least 2 years for him to completely recover, to start walking. But within 6 months, within 3 months, he started limping and tried to walk. Within 6 months, he was completely fit and fine. During that 6 month, I went back to my dad, and all I could tell dad was that, I have my own struggles. I'm struggling. I have my things that I'm still dealing with, but I really want to serve God, and in whatever capacity, whatever way I can. So he said, all right, then we start off. We got on our knees. I prayed, surrendered my life at that particular moment, along with my dad, early in the morning. And then I moved to Singapore for my diploma in ministry. And I feel that was the place where I actually, God healed me completely. So I was surrounded with those kind of people within the church, within my cell group, who were always there for me, caring with me, who was journeying with me. With them, I could share everything that I've actually been, the struggles that I was continuously facing also. All those things could be shared with them. and they continuously walked with me. They journeyed with me through those journey, and I feel that although, yeah, I mean, a lot of theological knowledges maybe or ministry experiences, but I feel like more than that, there was a place that I actually God could heal me and He could mentor me completely under those mentors. And then there is also the place where I decided to join SciAx for my higher studies. And another thing, other than the theological knowledge, the amazing professors, and the doctorates that we have in our college, I would say that it is more like a family. You know, we always emphasize on the egalitarian culture, and I think that was something that actually needed. I actually needed it for continuously growing in my own spiritual growth. And even at the moment, I still have certain things that I'm dealing with, you know, certain struggles that I'm going through. But then one thing I understood was that God was not waiting for me to be perfect, to get my life straight, but He wanted, in that journey, I want to journey with Him, and He wanted to make my life according to His purpose and according to His will. And all those things that actually happened with me is, I would say, it's a little bit tough when I just think about it, but at the same time, I'm very thankful that God has been gracious throughout the life. And throughout this time, my relationship with my family, with my mom and dad, has gone very strong, and with my church members, up to extent that I really want to go back and serve in the same place among the same people. And I feel like God has been calling me to that particular place. And other than that, right now I'm involved in one of a rock band in Chennai, where we reach out to the youths who are interested in that particular genre. Along with that, I'm also part of a youth group called Folk Generation, and we tend to reach out to the people, especially pastors' kids and the youths who are actually struggling their lives. You know, the Christian youths and Christian kids who are actually struggling with all these things, all the pressures that we actually come up and we actually deal with. So I personally feel that that is the areas that God has been calling me, and I want you to continuously, you know, pray for me, for my ministry, and this 1 year where God can equip me even more and moving forward for my ministry. Thank you very much.